My ex sued me for child support for a kid that isn't mine until the DNA test destroyed her in court. Rachel and I dated for 3 years. Ended things mutually when she got a job offer in Denver, and I was starting my electrician apprenticeship in Ohio. No drama, no hard feelings. We even stayed friends on social media, with occasional happy birthday texts. 4 years later, completely out of nowhere, I got served papers at work, child support lawsuit. Rachel was claiming I owed 3 years of back support for a daughter named Lily, $1,800 a month plus medical expenses. Total, $87,000. I hadn't seen Rachel in 4 years. The math literally didn't work, but her filing claimed we'd had a one-night thing when she was visiting Ohio for a conference. Never happened. I was dating someone else then, and had timestamp photos from a vacation in Florida that exact week. Didn't matter. The court ordered temporary support payments while the case was pending. $1,800 a month starting immediately. I made $4,200 a month as a journeyman electrician. After taxes and this support order, I had $800 left for rent, food, everything. Had to move back in with my parents at 31. Rachel hired this aggressive lawyer, Diane Roth, who specialized in deadbeat dad cases. First hearing, Roth painted me as a monster who'd abandoned his pregnant girlfriend and denied his own child for years, said I was hiding assets, probably working under the table, definitely lying about never seeing Rachel. The judge ate it up, increased the temporary support to $2,100 a month. I could barely afford groceries. My lawyer was this overworked public defender who kept mixing up my case with his other clients. Meanwhile, Rachel was posting constantly about being a single warrior mom and how fathers who don't support their children are the worst kind of criminals. Her friends were commenting about how brave she was for fighting for Lily's rights. She started a GoFundMe that raised $15,000. I knew something was off. Hired a private investigator with money I borrowed from my uncle. Cost me $3,000 I didn't have. The PI found something interesting. Rachel had been dating a guy named Brandon for 5 years. They'd been living together the entire time. Brandon was married to someone else, separated but not divorced. His wife was threatening to take everything in the divorce if she found out about the affair, so Rachel needed another father on paper. Someone with decent income, no criminal record, far enough away that casual observers wouldn't question it. She picked me, the perfect patsy. We went to court for the final hearing 6 months after this started. I'd paid $12,600 in temporary support by then, maxed out credit cards, borrowed from family, sold my truck. Rachel showed up looking perfectly rehearsed conservative dress, minimal makeup, holding a folder of what she claimed were medical bills and daycare receipts. Roth went first. Presented a whole timeline of my supposed relationship with Rachel. Text messages I'd never sent. Emails from accounts I didn't have. Even had a witness, Rachel's friend Melissa, who swore she'd seen us together that weekend. All fabricated but convincing. The judge was nodding along, ready to make the order permanent. Then my new lawyer spoke up. I'd fired the public defender, hired a bulldog attorney with my last $5,000. He had one simple request, DNA test. Right now. We'd brought a technician from a certified lab. It would take 30 minutes for rapid results. Roth objected frantically, said it was unnecessary trauma for the child. Rachel started crying about how insulting this was, how it would damage Lily's relationship with her father. The judge wasn't buying it. Ordered the test immediately. Rachel went pale. Started hyperventilating. Said Lily was sick, couldn't come to court. The judge said we'd wait. Sent a bailiff with Rachel to get the child from her mother, who was watching her in the car. 45 minutes later, the tech had the results. The tech walked to the judge's bench and handed over a folder. The judge opened it and read the top page slowly. His eyes moved across the lines. He flipped to the second page. The courtroom was so quiet I could hear Rachel breathing fast in her chair next to Diane. Diane leaned over and whispered something urgent in Rachel's ear. Rachel shook her head and kept staring at the judge. The tech stood there waiting. The judge read the third page. Then he closed the folder and looked straight at Rachel. His face had changed. The friendly expression from earlier was gone. He looked at her like she was something stuck to his shoe. Rachel's breathing got faster. She grabbed the edge of the table. Diane put a hand on her arm, but Rachel pulled away. The judge set the folder down carefully. He picked up his pen and wrote something on a pad of paper. Then he looked up again. The silence stretched out. I could feel my heart beating in my throat. The judge cleared his throat. Rachel, do you have anything to say before I make my ruling? His voice was cold. Rachel opened her mouth, but nothing came out at first. She swallowed hard. The test must be wrong. Her voice came out shaky and thin. Labs make mistakes all the time. This can't be right. She looked at Diane for help, but Diane was staring at the table. I was there that weekend. We were together. Rachel's voice got higher. This is my daughter's father. The test is wrong. The judge held up one hand. Rachel stopped talking. Her whole body was shaking now. The judge picked up the folder again and held it up. This report shows 0 probability of paternity. 0. Not low. Not unlikely. 0. He set it down hard on the bench. The sound made Rachel flinch. I'm declaring this paternity claim completely fraudulent. All temporary support payments are halted immediately effective today. He wrote something else on his pad. I'm referring this case to the district attorney's office for potential criminal charges, including fraud and perjury. He looked right at Rachel. You will return every cent this man paid in temporary support, plus his legal fees. The exact amount will be determined, but you're looking at a minimum of $15,000. Rachel started crying. Not the pretty crying from earlier when she talked about Lily. This was ugly crying with her whole face scrunched up. Diane stood up fast. Your Honor, if I may. This was an honest mistake. My client genuinely believed the defendant was the father. She had no intention to defraud anyone. The judge looked at Diane like she'd just told him the sky was green. An honest mistake? He opened a different folder on his bench. Your client presented fabricated text messages, fabricated emails, a witness who committed perjury. He looked down at his notes. And the timing is quite convenient given that the actual father is married to someone else who's threatening to take everything in a divorce. He closed the folder. This wasn't a mistake. This was calculated fraud. Rachel made a choking sound. She doubled over in her chair. I needed someone on paper. The words came out between sobs. Brandon couldn't acknowledge her. His wife would take everything. I didn't know what else to do. She was crying so hard she could barely talk. I was desperate. Lily needed a father on the birth certificate. Someone with a job and no record. I thought you wouldn't mind because we used to be together. Her voice got higher and thinner. I didn't think you'd fight it. Most guys just pay. I watched her fall apart and felt nothing. No sympathy, no satisfaction, just empty. 6 months of hell because she thought I wouldn't fight back. The judge was writing furiously on his pad. Rachel kept sobbing. Diane tried to get her to stop talking, but Rachel wasn't listening anymore. She was having some kind of breakdown right there in court. Her breathing came in short gasps. Her face turned red. She grabbed at her chest. The bailiff moved toward her. Diane stood up and tried to help Rachel stand, but Rachel's legs wouldn't hold her. The bailiff got on one side and Diane got on the other. They basically carried her toward the door. Rachel's mother rushed in from the hallway where she'd been waiting with Lily. She took one look at Rachel and then glared at me. Her face was full of hate like I'd done something wrong, like I was the bad guy in this situation. She followed the bailiff and Diane out with Lily on her hip. The little girl was crying because everyone else was upset. The courtroom doors closed behind them. Mitchell stood up next to me. He reached over and shook my hand hard. His grip was firm and steady. That's the most clear-cut fraud case I've seen in 20 years of practice. His voice was low, so only I could hear. We're going to get every penny back plus damages for emotional distress and lost wages. I'm drafting the motions tonight. The judge was still writing. Mitchell gathered his papers and put them in his briefcase. Come on, let's get out of here before the media shows up. I stood up on shaky legs. My whole body felt weird. Light. Like I might float away if I wasn't careful. We walked out of the courtroom together. The hallway was empty except for a few people waiting for other cases. Mitchell stopped at the elevator. You did good. You fought smart. A lot of guys in your situation would have given up or done something stupid. You hired a PI. You hired me. You demanded proof. That took guts. The elevator arrived and we got in. I still couldn't really process what had just happened. 6 months of crushing weight was suddenly gone. Just like that. One DNA test, and it was over. I walked out of the courthouse into bright afternoon sun. My eyes took a second to adjust. My parents were waiting by their car in the parking lot. Mom saw me first. Her face broke into a huge smile. She ran over and wrapped her arms around me. She didn't say anything, just held on tight. I hugged her back. Dad came over and put his hand on my shoulder. I knew it. He kept saying it. I knew it. I knew it. His voice was thick. I knew you were telling the truth. Mom finally let go and wiped her eyes. She was crying but smiling at the same time. Let's go home. Dad drove. I sat in the back seat like I was a kid again. Nobody talked much. Mom kept turning around to look at me like she had to make sure I was really there. When we got to their house, I went straight to my room. My childhood bedroom with the same posters on the walls from high school, the same small bed. I lay down and stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow I could start looking at apartments again. Start rebuilding my savings. Get my life back. Tonight, I just needed to sleep. For the first time in 6 months, I wasn't worried about money or court or everyone thinking I was a deadbeat. I closed my eyes and was out in minutes. The next morning, I got to work early. My supervisor, Rick, pulled me aside before I even clocked in. Hey, can I talk to you for a minute? We went into his office. He closed the door and sat on the edge of his desk. I heard what happened. The court thing. His face was serious. I want to apologize for how some of the guys treated you when you first got served. We all assumed the worst, and that wasn't fair. I nodded but didn't say anything. Rick continued. Everyone feels terrible about it. We should have given you the benefit of the doubt. You're a good worker and a good guy. I just wanted you to know that. Thanks. My voice came out rough. I appreciate that. Rick stood up and opened the door. All right, get out there. We've got that commercial job on 5th Street today. I walked out to the truck feeling lighter than I had in months. The other guys on the crew were already loading equipment. A couple of them nodded at me. One guy named Steve came over. Hey man, glad that's over. Sorry we were dicks about it. No problem. We got in the truck and headed to the job site. For the first time since this whole thing started, I felt like maybe things were going to be okay. That evening I got home and my phone rang while I was heating up leftovers. Mitchell Boone calling. I picked up and he got straight to it. The district attorney wanted to meet with me. Rory Carson apparently specialized in fraud cases and was building a reputation for prosecuting paternity scams. Mitchell said Carson saw these cases becoming more common and wanted to make examples. We scheduled for 2 days later at the DA office downtown. I showed up early wearing my best work pants and a button-up shirt. Carson met me in a small conference room with Mitchell already there. Carson was younger than I expected, maybe 40, with sharp eyes and a firm handshake. He laid out 3 folders on the table. Rachel could face fraud charges, perjury charges, and filing false legal documents. Each one carried potential jail time. He explained first offenders usually got probation and restitution orders instead of prison. But the charges would be on her record permanently. Carson leaned back in his chair and asked what I wanted. Did I want to pursue criminal charges or just get my money back and move on? I thought about it for maybe 5 seconds. The 6 months of hell flashed through my head. Moving back with my parents at 31. Selling my truck. Everyone at work thinking I was a deadbeat. Rachel posting on social media about what a terrible person I was. I told Carson I wanted her prosecuted. She needed to face real consequences for what she did, not just pay me back and walk away like nothing happened. Carson nodded and said he would file charges within the week. Mitchell and I left the DA office and walked to his car. He had more paperwork for me to sign. We drove to his office and he pulled out another set of documents. Civil suit against Rachel for the $12,600 in support payments plus legal fees, PI costs and damages for what I went through. He was asking for $45,000 total. That sounded like a lot until I remembered the 6 months she put me through. I signed everything. Mitchell also prepared a separate complaint against Diane Roth to file with the State Bar Association. He said it was a long shot, but worth trying. Roth knowingly presented fake evidence and ignored obvious red flags. That might count as breaking the rules lawyers have to follow. Her aggressive tactics and willingness to destroy someone based on lies should have consequences too. I signed that complaint as well. Over the next few days, word started spreading about the DNA results. Rachel had kept her GoFundMe page active the whole time. People started flooding the comments section demanding their money back, calling her a scammer and a liar. Someone posted a link to the court records showing the DNA test results. The comments got worse. People tagged the GoFundMe platform asking why they were hosting a fraud campaign. Within a week, the platform shut down Rachel's page and froze the remaining funds. I heard through Mitchell that Rachel was panicking about having to return the $15,000. Meanwhile, DA Carson contacted Melissa Perkins to ask about her testimony. Melissa suddenly developed amnesia about the whole thing. She claimed Rachel told her exactly what to say on the stand, that she did not realize lying under oath was such a serious crime. She was trying to save herself by throwing Rachel under the bus. Carson told Mitchell that Melissa would probably face perjury charges too, but he would offer her a deal if she testified against Rachel. I started looking at apartments again. Found a small studio on the east side of town for $800 a month. Not much space, but it had a kitchen and bathroom, and it was mine. No more sleeping in my childhood bedroom. No more feeling like a failure every time I walked past my high school basketball trophies. I signed the lease and moved in the following weekend. Dad helped me move my stuff in his truck since I still did not have mine back. Mom brought cleaning supplies and spent 3 hours scrubbing the place even though it was already clean. They left and I sat on my air mattress in the empty studio. It felt good, like I was finally getting my life back piece by piece. Uncle Jefferson called me that week. He told me not to worry about paying back the $3,000 for the private investigator right away. Seeing Rachel exposed in court was payment enough for him, but I insisted on setting up a payment plan anyway. $50 a month until it was paid off. He tried to argue, but I would not budge. He loaned me that money when I desperately needed it, and I was going to pay him back properly. 2 weeks after the DNA test results, Mitchell called with news Diane Roth had withdrawn from representing Rachel, filed paperwork with the court removing herself from the case completely. Mitchell said this was a bad sign for Rachel. Roth probably realized the case was completely indefensible now and did not want her reputation damaged any further. Being associated with proven fraud could hurt her career. Rachel would need to find a new lawyer willing to take on a case she already lost. Someone willing to defend her against criminal charges with mountains of evidence against her. Good luck with that. Within a week, Mitchell called with news that Rachel had hired a criminal defense attorney. Her name was Francesca Conti, and she worked out of a firm in Columbus that specialized in white-collar crimes. Conti contacted Mitchell the same day she took Rachel's case. She wanted to talk settlement before DA Carson filed any charges. Mitchell forwarded me Conti's email, which laid out Rachel's offer. She would pay back all $12,600 in support payments, plus $22,400 in legal fees and damages. Total of $35,000. In exchange, I would agree not to pursue any additional civil damages beyond what Mitchell already filed for. The criminal case would still go forward since that was up to the state, not me. But Conti was hoping a settlement would make Carson go easier on Rachel. Mitchell said we should meet with Carson before responding to Conti's offer. He set up an appointment at the DA office for the following Tuesday. Carson's office was in the county building downtown, 3rd floor, with windows overlooking the courthouse where the DNA test had destroyed Rachel's lies. Carson was younger than I expected, maybe 40, with a neat beard and glasses. He shook my hand and gestured for Mitchell and me to sit in the chairs across from his desk. Carson opened a file folder and flipped through some papers before looking up at me. He explained that the decision to prosecute Rachel was not actually mine to make the state brings criminal charges, not victims. But he valued my input and wanted to know what I was hoping for as an outcome. Did I want restitution and an apology, or did I want to see this go to trial with possible jail time for Rachel? I sat there thinking about it for a minute. Part of me kept picturing Rachel's daughter, Lily. That kid was completely innocent in all this. She did not ask to have a mom who lied and committed fraud. If Rachel went to jail, Lily would suffer for something she had no control over. But then I remembered the 6 months Rachel put me through. Barely eating because I could not afford groceries after the support payments. Sleeping in my childhood bedroom at 31 years old. Going to work every day while everyone thought I was a deadbeat dad who abandoned his kid. Rachel tried to destroy my entire life so she could hide her affair with a married man. She fabricated evidence, convinced her friend to commit perjury, and hired an aggressive lawyer to paint me as a monster in court. I looked at Carson and told him I wanted Rachel prosecuted. She needed to face real consequences for what she did, not just write a check and move on like nothing happened. But I was not looking for maximum penalties or trying to destroy her life the way she tried to destroy mine. I just wanted her to have this on her record so she could not do it to someone else. Carson nodded and made some notes in his file. He said that was helpful context, and he would keep it in mind when deciding what charges to file and what kind of plea deal to offer if Rachel wanted to avoid trial. Mitchell and I left the DA office and walked back to his car. He asked what I wanted to do about Conti's settlement offer. I told him to accept it if he thought $35,000 was fair. Mitchell said it was actually a decent offer considering we would avoid the risk and expense of a civil trial where a jury might award less. He would draw up the settlement agreement requiring Rachel to pay $10,000 immediately and the remaining $25,000 in monthly installments of $1,000. That would take 25 months to pay off, but at least I would start getting money back right away. Mitchell sent the signed agreement to Francesca Conti that afternoon. She responded within an hour, accepting all terms. The first $10,000 payment arrived by certified check. Exactly 1 week later, I took it straight to the bank and deposited it, then immediately wrote a check to Uncle Jefferson for the $3,000 he loaned me for the private investigator. I paid off my credit card debt, which had ballooned to $4,000 during the 6 months of support payments. The remaining $3,000 I used as a down payment to buy back my truck from the guy I sold it to. He wanted $500 more than what he paid me, which annoyed me, but I needed transportation. 2 days after the settlement payment cleared, DA Carson filed formal criminal charges against Rachel. 3 counts of perjury for lying under oath about our relationship and the fake conference weekend. 1 count of fraud for the entire false paternity scheme. 1 count of filing false documents with the court. Mitchell called to walk me through what each charge meant. The perjury counts were for her testimony, the fabricated text messages and emails, and having Melissa lie on the stand. The fraud charge covered the whole plan to make me pay child support for a kid that was not mine. The false documents charge was for all the fake evidence Roth submitted to the court. Each count was a misdemeanor, but together they carried a maximum sentence of 3 years in jail plus fines. Carson was playing it smart by stacking multiple charges, so Rachel would be more likely to take a plea deal. Around the same time, the State Bar Association opened an investigation into Diane Roth's conduct during my case. Mitchell said they were interviewing everyone involved, including the judge, who seemed pretty angry about being deceived by Roth's fabricated evidence. The Bar Association moved slowly, but Mitchell had heard through other attorneys that they were taking the investigation seriously. Roth could face suspension or even disbarment if they found she knowingly presented false evidence or failed to verify her client's claims. Rachel's arraignment happened 3 weeks after Carson filed charges. Mitchell went with me to watch from the gallery. Rachel showed up in a conservative navy dress with her hair pulled back, trying to look respectable. Francesca Conti stood next to her at the defense table looking calm and professional. The judge read the charges and asked how Rachel pleaded. Conti spoke up and entered a plea of not guilty on Rachel's behalf. Then Conti immediately launched into arguing for a plea deal. She said Rachel was a single mother with no prior criminal record who made a terrible mistake out of desperation. Carson stood up and made his counteroffer. He would reduce all charges to a single count of fraud if Rachel pleaded guilty and accepted 2 years probation plus full restitution. But there was one condition. Rachel had to allocate in court, meaning she had to stand up and explain exactly what she did and why she did it. No hiding behind lawyer speak or claiming it was all a misunderstanding. She had to admit the whole scheme in open court and take full responsibility. Conti pushed back hard, but Carson held firm on the allocation requirement. The arraignment ended with Rachel looking pale and shaky, and Conti said she would discuss the offer with her client. I started seeing a therapist 2 weeks after the arraignment, because even though I won the case, I was having serious trust issues and constant anxiety about money. Every time I checked my bank account, I felt sick. Every time someone mentioned relationships, I got tense. The therapist was this older woman named Dr. Palmer, who specialized in trauma and abuse cases. She listened to the whole story during our first session and then told me what I went through was financial abuse. She said it was completely normal to have lasting effects from 6 months of being financially destroyed by someone I trusted. We met every Thursday evening and worked through the anxiety and anger. Dr. Palmer taught me breathing exercises for when I started spiraling about money. She helped me understand that trust issues after betrayal were a normal protective response, not a character flaw. Around the same time, I started working with a credit counselor because my credit score was absolutely trashed. I had maxed out 3 credit cards during the support payment period and missed payments on 2 of them when I literally did not have enough money left after the court order. My score had dropped from 720 to 580 in 6 months. The credit counselor was this no-nonsense guy who laid out exactly how bad the damage was and what it would take to fix it. He said recovery would take at least 2 years of consistent on-time payments and slowly paying down the balances. He helped me set up a payment plan and showed me how to budget properly so I would never miss another payment. It felt overwhelming, but also good to have a concrete plan instead of just panicking every time I thought about my ruined credit. 3 months after the DNA results came back, Francesca called Mitchell to say Rachel was accepting the plea deal. She could not risk going to trial where she might actually end up in jail if a jury convicted her on all charges. The sentencing hearing got scheduled for 2 weeks later. Mitchell called me the night before to prepare me for what would happen. He said Rachel would have to stand up in open court and explain her entire scheme in detail as part of the allocation requirement. Carson was not letting her off easy. The sentencing hearing was in the same courtroom where the DNA test destroyed her case. I sat in the gallery with Mitchell while Rachel stood at the defense table with Francesca. The judge was different this time, an older man named Judge Anderson, who had a reputation for being tough on fraud cases. Carson went first and laid out the charges Rachel was pleading guilty to and the recommended sentence. 2 years probation, 200 hours of community service, and continuation of the restitution payments she already agreed to in the civil settlement. Then Judge Anderson looked directly at Rachel and told her to explain what she did and why she did it. Rachel stood up, and her voice was shaking so badly I could barely hear her at first. She admitted she fabricated everything about me being Lily's father. She said Brandon could not acknowledge Lily because of his divorce situation, and she panicked about being a single mother with no support. She chose me because I had stable income and lived far away, so no one would question it. She admitted to creating fake text messages and emails. She admitted to having Melissa lie under oath. She said she knew it was wrong but felt desperate and did not think about the damage she would cause me. The whole time she talked, I just sat there feeling cold and angry. She kept trying to make it sound like she had no choice, like circumstances forced her into fraud. Judge Anderson was not buying it. When Rachel finished, he looked at her with obvious disgust and said she did not just commit fraud. He said she tried to destroy an innocent person's life for her own convenience. He went through everything I lost because of her lies. My apartment, my truck, my savings, my credit score, 6 months of barely surviving. He said the only reason she was not going to jail was because Lily needed her mother. But if she violated probation even once, she would serve the maximum sentence. Rachel started crying, but Judge Anderson just moved on to formally sentencing her. 2 years probation, 200 hours community service, restitution payments continuing as agreed. He also ordered her to have no contact with me whatsoever, except through attorneys regarding the restitution payments. The whole thing took maybe 30 minutes, and then it was over. Rachel left with Francesca, and I walked out with Mitchell feeling like something finally closed. What pissed me off was that Brandon never appeared in court or got charged with anything. He was the reason this whole mess happened. If he had just acknowledged his own daughter from the start, Rachel never would have targeted me, but he got to hide behind his separation and pretend he did not exist while I fought for my life in court. Mitchell said there was no legal basis to charge Brandon since he did not participate in the fraud directly, but it still felt wrong that he faced 0 consequences. About a week after the sentencing, Solomon called me with interesting news. He said Brandon's wife Eleanor discovered the affair anyway and took him to the cleaners in divorce court. Apparently, Eleanor's lawyer found out about Lily during discovery and used it to prove Brandon was hiding assets and income. Eleanor got the house, most of their savings, and Brandon was now paying child support for Lily directly. Solomon said Eleanor's attorney was ruthless, and Brandon walked away from the divorce with almost nothing. It did not make up for him dodging criminal charges, but at least he faced some kind of consequences. 2 weeks after Rachel's sentencing, Carson's office filed perjury charges against Melissa for her false testimony about seeing me with Rachel that weekend. Melissa took a plea deal immediately, probably after seeing what happened to Rachel. She got probation and had to write me a formal apology letter as part of her sentence. The letter arrived on a Tuesday, and I opened it expecting something genuine. Instead, it was this hollow, clearly lawyer-written thing about how she made a mistake and hoped I could move forward. She never actually said she was sorry for lying under oath to destroy my life. She just said she regretted her involvement in the situation. I threw the letter away and never responded because she did not deserve my forgiveness. Around the same time, Mitchell called with news about Diane. The State Bar Association suspended her license for 6 months for ethical violations. Mitchell said it was a significant penalty because most lawyers never face suspension. The bar found that Diane failed to properly verify Rachel's claims and presented evidence she should have known was fabricated. Mitchell said the suspension would seriously damage her reputation and practice. Lawyers who get suspended usually lose most of their clients and struggle to rebuild their careers. I felt 0 sympathy for her. She made her money painting innocent people as deadbeats and did not care about the truth. With some of the restitution money coming in monthly, I finally had enough saved to get my truck back. I tracked down the guy I sold it to and offered to buy it back. He wanted $500 more than what he paid me, which annoyed me, but I needed my independence back. I was tired of relying on my parents for rides or borrowing their car. I paid him the extra $500 and drove my truck home feeling like I was reclaiming a piece of my life that Rachel stole. The first payment from Rachel hit my account exactly 30 days after the settlement. Mitchell set it up through automatic withdrawal from her bank account, so she could not claim she forgot or did not have the money every month for the next 6 months. That $1,000 showed up like clockwork on the 15th. I checked my account every single time just to make sure it was real. Seeing that money arrive felt like getting back a small piece of what she took from me, even though it would take over 2 years to get everything. I started seeing a therapist about a month after the court case ended. My parents suggested it, and I figured it could not hurt. The therapist was this older woman who specialized in trauma and financial abuse. She helped me work through the anger and betrayal in ways I had not expected. She kept pointing out that Rachel's desperation did not excuse what she did, but understanding her motivation might help me process it. I was not sure I agreed with that logic because desperation does not justify destroying someone's life. But the sessions did help me feel less angry all the time. I stopped checking Rachel's social media obsessively. I stopped imagining confrontations that would never happen. The anger was still there, but it was not controlling me anymore. Around 3 months after everything ended, I started dating again. I was cautious about sharing personal information too quickly because I did not want to scare anyone off or seem like damaged goods. My first few dates, I did not even mention what happened with Rachel because I did not want it to define me. I went out with a woman I met at the gym and we had a nice dinner, but there was no chemistry. Then I went on a coffee date with someone from a dating app, and she spent the whole time talking about her ex. By the 4th or 5th date with different people, I started to relax a little. Dating felt normal again instead of terrifying. Work got better as people forgot about the initial drama. Those first few months after I got served, some of the guys on my crew treated me differently. They did not say anything directly, but I could tell they thought I was a deadbeat dad. After the DNA test results came out, most of them apologized or at least stopped acting weird around me. I got assigned to better job sites with more complex electrical work. My supervisor called me into his office one day and said he was recommending me for a raise. He told me my work ethic never wavered even during the worst of the legal battle, and that showed real character. The raise was $200 a month, not huge, but it helped Uncle Jefferson and I grew closer through this whole experience. He started inviting me over for dinner once a week, and we would watch football or just talk. One night, about 4 months after the court case, he told me he was falsely accused of something years ago. He did not go into details, but said someone at his job claimed he stole equipment, and he almost lost everything fighting to clear his name. That was why he did not hesitate to loan me the money for the private investigator. He said he knew how important it was to fight back when someone tries to destroy your reputation with lies. Hearing that made me understand why he believed me so completely when everyone else had doubts. 8 months after the DNA test, I was feeling stable again for the first time in over a year. I had my own place, a small 1-bedroom apartment that was not fancy but was mine. I had my truck back. My debt was manageable and getting smaller every month. I was rebuilding my savings account with the restitution payments and the raise from work. My credit score was still terrible, but the credit counselor said I was on the right track. I could buy groceries without checking my bank account first. I could go out with friends without panicking about money. Life felt normal again in a way it had not, since the day I got served papers at work. Mitchell sent me a final bill marked paid in full about a week after that 8-month mark. Included with the bill was a handwritten note on his law firm letterhead saying he was proud of how I handled everything. He wrote that most people in my situation give up because fighting seems too hard or too expensive. But I fought smart and won. He said cases like mine reminded him why he became a lawyer in the first place. I kept that note in my desk drawer because some days I still needed to remember that fighting back was worth it. I ran into Rachel's mother at the grocery store on a random Tuesday afternoon. I was picking up milk and cereal when I turned down the produce aisle, and there she was looking at apples. We made eye contact, and I almost turned around and left, but she walked toward me. She actually apologized to me right there between the apples and the oranges. She said she believed Rachel's lies and felt terrible about the things she said and thought about me. She told me she called me horrible names to her friends and family. She said she was ashamed of herself for not questioning Rachel's story more carefully. The apology caught me completely off guard, but I accepted it gracefully. I told her I understood she was just trying to support her daughter and granddaughter. She got tears in her eyes and said Rachel was struggling with the consequences of her actions. I managed not to say that Rachel should be struggling after what she did to me. Instead, I just nodded and said, I hope things worked out for everyone involved. We said goodbye and I finished my shopping feeling weird about the whole interaction. 2 days after the grocery store encounter, Carson called me. He said Rachel violated probation by missing community service hours. She was supposed to complete 200 hours total, and she had only done about 60 hours in the 8 months since sentencing. She had to appear before the judge again and could face jail time if she did not get back on track. Carson said the judge took probation violations seriously, especially in fraud cases. He asked if I wanted to attend the hearing, but I told him no. I did not need to see Rachel get in trouble again. I just wanted her to fulfill her obligations and stay out of my life. Carson called me 3 weeks later to say Rachel had another probation hearing scheduled. Because she missed too many community service hours, I decided not to go, but Carson updated me afterward. He said the judge was not happy at all and gave Rachel one final warning. The judge told her straight up that if she missed any more hours or violated probation again, she would serve the maximum jail sentence with no exceptions. Carson said Rachel looked scared out of her mind and kept promising she would comply with everything from now on. She apologized to the judge and said she had been struggling, but would get back on track immediately. 2 weeks after that hearing, my supervisor called me into his office at work. I thought maybe I messed something up on a job site, but he was smiling when I walked in. He told me the company was promoting me to lead electrician starting next month. The position came with an $800 monthly raise plus better benefits. I just sat there for a second trying to process it, because $800 felt like winning the lottery after everything I went through. My supervisor said I earned it through consistent hard work and staying professional even when my personal life was falling apart. He said that kind of character was exactly what they wanted in leadership positions. I thanked him and walked out of his office feeling like maybe the universe was finally balancing things out. The extra money meant I could pay down my debt faster and actually start saving again instead of just surviving paycheck to paycheck. My credit counselor appointment the next week brought more good news. She pulled my credit report and showed me the score had gone up 40 points in the last 3 months. I was making every payment on time, and my credit card balances were dropping steadily. She said if I kept this up, I would have good credit again within 18 months. That timeline sounded forever away, but also gave me hope that I could actually recover from the financial damage Rachel caused. The counselor helped me set up a detailed payment plan that would have all my cards paid off in 14 months using the extra money from my promotion. I left her office with actual goals instead of just trying to keep my head above water. Summer rolled around and my friend threw a barbecue at his place. I almost didn't go because I was tired from work, but figured I should try to have some kind of social life again. That's where I met Alex Mendez. We started talking by the grill about random stuff like music and places we wanted to travel someday. Alex was funny and easy to talk to, and we ended up hanging out the whole afternoon. We exchanged numbers before I left and started texting over the next few days. We went on our first date to a Mexican restaurant and then caught a movie. Second date was mini golf where Alex destroyed me by 12 strokes. By the third date, I knew I liked this person enough that I needed to be honest about what happened with Rachel. We were having coffee at this place downtown when I just came out with it. I told Alex the whole story about the fake paternity suit and the court battle and how it destroyed my finances and trust in people. I figured if it scared them off, better to know now before I got more attached. Alex listened to everything without interrupting and then shared something I wasn't expecting. Their ex had tried something similar with a fake pregnancy scare to trap them in the relationship. Alex said they understood exactly how it felt to have someone manipulate you like that and use the legal system as a weapon. We spent the rest of the date talking about our experiences with toxic people and how we were both cautious now, but still wanted to trust someone again. It felt good to be with someone who actually got it, instead of judging me or thinking I must have done something to deserve what Rachel did. Things with Alex moved forward slowly over the next several months. We took our time getting to know each other without rushing into anything serious. Around the 1-year mark after the DNA test, Mitchell sent me an email update about Rachel. She had finally completed all 200 hours of her community service and was current on her restitution payments. She had paid $22,000 of the $35,000 she owed me. Mitchell said she was being compliant with everything and would likely finish probation without any more issues. That money coming in every month was rebuilding my savings account and letting me actually plan for the future instead of just surviving. I decided to use some of it to take Alex on a weekend trip to Columbus. We stayed at a nice hotel downtown and went to museums and restaurants without me stressing about money even once. That trip felt like a huge victory, because a year earlier, I was eating ramen in my parents' house and wondering if I would ever feel normal again. Now I was on vacation with someone I cared about and not panicking every time I checked my bank account. We had an amazing weekend, and I realized I was actually happy for the first time since this whole nightmare started. Thanksgiving came around, and Jefferson invited me to his place for dinner with the whole family. After we ate, he stood up and got everyone's attention. He told the whole family the story of how I fought back against Rachel and won. He said I showed real strength by not giving up even when the system seemed stacked against me and I had nothing left. Everyone raised their glasses and toasted to standing up for yourself and having people who believe in you when things get dark. My aunt said she was proud of me, and my cousin told me he would have given up halfway through. It felt good to have my family acknowledge what I went through, instead of just moving on like it never happened. Jefferson pulled me aside later and said he was glad he could help, and that seeing me rebuild my life made him believe in justice again. A few weeks after Thanksgiving, Solomon Gray called me out of nowhere. We hadn't talked since he finished the investigation over a year ago. He said he heard through the legal community that Diane's law practice was struggling badly after her suspension. Apparently, she lost most of her clients during the 6 months she couldn't practice and never really recovered. Solomon said she was working as a contract attorney now for other firms instead of running her own practice. He thought I would want to know that her career took a serious hit for what she did. I thanked him for the update and felt a small sense of justice knowing she faced real consequences beyond just the suspension. The mailman delivered a letter one afternoon in early December with a return address I didn't recognize. I opened it and saw it was from Brandon. He wrote 3 pages apologizing for his role in what happened with Rachel. He said Eleanor found out about the affair anyway and took everything in the divorce. He was paying child support for Lily now, which is what should have happened from the start. Brandon said he was ashamed of himself for hiding and letting Rachel try to pin everything on me. He wrote that he understood if I never forgave him, but wanted me to know he was sorry and taking responsibility. Now I read the letter twice and then put it in my desk drawer. Part of me appreciated the apology, but another part was still angry that he got to hide while I fought for my life in court. At least Lily had a father supporting her now, even if it took a divorce to make that happen. I crumpled up Brandon's letter and threw it in the trash without writing back. He didn't deserve my forgiveness or even a response after hiding while Rachel tried to destroy my life in court. His apology felt empty because he still tried to make it sound like he was just caught up in Rachel's plan instead of being the whole reason it happened. If he had stepped up from the beginning and acknowledged Lily, none of this would have happened to me. 6 months passed and things with Alex kept getting better. We were sitting on my couch one night watching TV when the topic of living together came up. Alex asked if I had ever thought about it, and I surprised myself by saying yes without any panic or fear. We talked about finding a 2-bedroom place eventually, so we each had our own space but could build something together. The conversation felt natural and easy instead of scary. Like I thought it would after everything with Rachel, I realized I wasn't afraid of commitment anymore because Alex showed me what a real partnership looked like. Mitchell called me one afternoon 18 months after the settlement to tell me Rachel had made her final restitution payment. He sent over the paperwork showing the civil case was completely closed and I would never have to deal with her again legally. That last payment meant she had paid back all $35,000 she owed me. I deposited the check and felt this huge weight lift off my shoulders, knowing it was finally over. The money had rebuilt my savings account to where it was before this nightmare started. A few days later, I got a letter from the State Bar Association thanking me for my cooperation in their investigation into Diane. They said the investigation was complete, but didn't share any details about what happened. Mitchell heard through his contacts that Diane was facing additional sanctions beyond the 6-month suspension. He said the bar took a dim view of lawyers who knowingly present false evidence and that her career would probably never fully recover. 2 years after that DNA test destroyed Rachel in court, my life looked completely different. I had $12,000 in savings, my credit score was back up to 720, and I had gotten promoted to lead electrician with that $800 monthly raise, Alex, and I had been together for over a year, and our relationship kept getting stronger. Having someone who knew everything about what I went through and loved me anyway felt incredible. We decided to stop talking about moving in together and actually do it. Found a nice 2-bedroom apartment across town with better space than either of our current places. Signing that lease together felt like a huge step, but I wasn't nervous at all. Having a partner who contributed equally to rent and bills and didn't bring any drama into my life felt like winning the lottery after what Rachel put me through. We spent a weekend moving boxes and furniture, and by Sunday night we were unpacked and eating pizza on our new couch. A few weeks after we moved in, I stopped at a gas station to fill up my truck and saw Rachel pumping gas 3 spots over. She recognized me immediately and walked over before I could get back in my truck. She started trying to apologize in person, saying she knew what she did was horrible, and she thought about it every day. I cut her off and told her I accepted her restitution payments, and that was all I needed from her. Then I got in my truck and drove away without letting her say anything else. Seeing her in person after 2 years brought back some of the anger, but I didn't let it control me. My parents invited Alex and me over for dinner one Sunday, and after we ate, Dad asked to talk to me outside on the porch. Mom came out too, and they both told me how proud they were of how I handled everything with Rachel. Dad said I could have given up or done something stupid out of anger, but instead I fought back the right way through the legal system. He told me he learned from watching me that you have to stand up for yourself even when the system seems stacked against you. Mom hugged me and said, seeing me rebuild my life and find happiness with Alex showed her I was stronger than she realized. Uncle Jefferson called me a few weeks later and said he wanted to do something special for Alex and me. He paid for us to take a long weekend trip to a cabin in the mountains as a congratulations on surviving gift. We drove up on a Friday afternoon and spent 3 days hiking, reading, and just relaxing without any stress or worry. Sitting on the cabin porch Saturday night looking at the stars, I realized I had finally stopped being angry about what happened. The rage that used to keep me up at night was gone, and I felt peaceful for the first time in years. My boss pulled me into his office one Monday morning and told me the company was opening 2 supervisor positions next year. He said I was considered for one of them because my reliability and leadership during my personal crisis showed them I could handle pressure and responsibility. The supervisor role came with another significant raise and better benefits. He told me to think about whether I wanted to apply and let him know by the end of the month. I told him I wanted to apply and spent the next week working on my application materials. Alex helped me practice interview questions one evening after dinner, and somewhere in the middle of talking about my 5-year career goals, I realized we were naturally including each other in those plans. That weekend, we took a long walk through the park near our apartment, and Alex brought up the idea of getting engaged eventually. Not right away, but maybe in the next year or 2. My first instinct was to feel that old panic, the fear of being trapped or used, but it never came. Instead, I felt this genuine excitement about planning a future with someone who treated me like an equal partner. I told Alex that the whole nightmare with Rachel taught me what real partnership looks like by showing me exactly what it isn't, and we both laughed because it was such a backwards way to learn something important. 3 years after getting served those papers at work, I'm actually thriving in ways I never expected. The supervisor position came through 6 months ago with a salary that lets me save money every month instead of just surviving paycheck to paycheck. Alex and I are talking seriously about buying a house together next year, which feels crazy after I couldn't even afford groceries during the support order period. My credit score hit 780 last month, and I have almost $20,000 in savings that I built back from absolutely nothing. Rachel's fraud could have destroyed my entire life, taken everything I worked for and left me broken and bitter. Instead, it taught me I'm way stronger than I thought, and that fighting for the truth is always worth it, even when the system seems rigged against you and everyone assumes you're guilty. I still get angry sometimes when I think about those 6 months, but mostly I feel grateful that I didn't give up and that I had people who believed in me when it mattered most.